The screams always came first. In Maya's nightmares, it was the same every time. The sterile laboratory, the restraints cutting into her wrist, and the burning sensation as the genetic cocktail entered her bloodstream. Then came the screams, her own, as her DNA was rewritten cell by agonizing cell. Tonight, though, she wasn't dreaming. The jungle canopy filtered moonlight across her sweat-slick skin as she ran on all fours, faster than any human should be capable of moving. Her breath came in ragged pants, yellow eyes cutting through the darkness with unnatural clarity. Behind her, the whir of pursuit drones and the distinctive heavy footsteps of Nexus hunters closed in. Target moving northwest at 48 kilometers per hour. A mechanical voice echoed through the trees. Hybrid biosignature confirmed. Maya's ears, pointed, furred, and decidedly not human, twitched at the sound. They'd found her again. 3 months of freedom, of learning to control the beast inside her, erased in an instant by a random DNA sweep at the outer perimeter of the Amazon Preservation Zone. A fallen log loomed ahead. She cleared it in a single leap, landing with inhuman grace despite her exhaustion. The wolf DNA they'd spliced into her genome had certainly delivered on its promise of enhanced physical capabilities. What the Nexus Corporation's glossy recruitment videos hadn't mentioned was how it would affect her mind. The predatory instincts that now warred with her human consciousness. The way the full moon made her bones ache with the need to change, to hunt, to kill. The thought sent a ripple of revulsion through her, momentarily slowing her pace. It was in these moments of emotional intensity that the transformation progressed further, her facial features elongating slightly, black fur sprouting along her spine. Maya forced her breathing to slow, using the meditation techniques she'd developed to keep the wolf at bay. "I am Maya Weldon," she whispered to herself, voice rough and distorted through a partially transformed throat. Genetic engineer, human being, not their experiment, not a monster. A projectile whizzed past her ear, embedding itself in a nearby tree trunk with a sickening thunk. The tranquilizer dart's payload would have been enough to down an elephant, or more relevantly, a genetically enhanced wolf-human hybrid. Maya veered sharply left, diving into a denser patch of vegetation. Her enhanced smell detected water nearby, a river perhaps. If she could reach it, maybe she could. The thought was cut short as a net exploded around her, metal weights at its edges, bringing her crashing to the ground. Maya snarled, clawed hands instinctively tearing at the reinforced fibers. The more she struggled, the tighter the net became, its smart fibers responding to her movements. "Asset secured," came the mechanical voice closer now, preparing for extraction and containment. Panic surged through her system, adrenaline flooding her veins. With it came the change she'd been fighting to control. Her jaw extended, teeth lengthening into fangs as a black fur erupted across her skin. The wolf was taking over, driven by pure survival instinct. A figure stepped from the shadows, tactical gear gleaming with embedded tech, face obscured by a sleek helmet. The Nexus hunter raised a high-caliber tranquilizer gun, taking careful aim. "Subject WR7, you are property of Nexus Corporation. Resistance will only increase your discomfort." The words barely registered through the haze of fear and rage. Maya's now fully transformed jaws snapped at the net, teeth finally finding purchase on one section. The specialized fibers designed to withstand incredible force began to give way beneath the pressure of teeth engineered to be even stronger. The hunter took a step back, reconsidering his approach. He reached for a control panel on his forearm. Increasing net voltage to... A blur of movement erupted from the foliage behind him. Before the hunter could complete the command, a massive figure slammed into him with bone-crushing force. The hunter's helmet cracked against a tree trunk, the control panel on his arm sparking uselessly. Maya's yellow eyes widened as she beheld her unexpected savior. A man, at least he appeared mostly human, crouched over the fallen hunter. His muscled back was covered in tribal scarring patterns. Long dark hair loose around his shoulders. When he turned to face her, his eyes reflected the moonlight like a predator's. He moved toward her with a fluid grace that spoke of someone intimately familiar with the jungle. Without a word, he withdrew a serrated blade from his belt and began cutting through the net with practiced precision. "More will come," he said, voice a low rumble as the net finally gave way. "Can you run?" Maya pulled herself free, the transformation already beginning to recede now that immediate danger had passed. "Yes," she managed, her voice becoming more human again. "Who are you?" Instead of answering, he gestured deeper into the jungle. "Follow me if you want to live, or stay and go back to being their lab rat. Your choice." Without waiting for her response, he turned and sprinted into the darkness. Maya hesitated for only a second before following. The man moved with extraordinary speed for someone apparently fully human, negotiating the treacherous jungle terrain as if born to it. They ran in the silence for what felt like hours, changing direction frequently in what Maya recognized as an attempt to confuse any tracking technology. Finally, as the first hints of dawn lightened the eastern sky, they approached a massive tree whose exposed roots created a natural shelter. The man stopped, turning to study her with an intensity that made Maya self-conscious of her appearance. The transformation had receded, but she knew what he was seeing: a woman with distinctly inhuman features, yellow eyes, pointed ears, traces of black fur still visible at her hairline and along her forearms. "You're from Nexus," he said. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded cautiously. "I was. Not anymore." "WR7, he recited, eyes narrowing. "Wolf Reasoning Series, 7th prototype. You're the first of your kind to escape." She tensed, ready to flee or fight. "How do you know that?" His laugh held no humor. "Because I helped create you." His name was Raven Blackwood, and 5 years ago, he had been Nexus Corporation's star geneticist. "I was leading the early stages of the Chimera Initiative," he explained as he built a small, smokeless fire inside the hollow of the massive tree. "Cross-species genetic modification for extreme environment adaptation. The promise was evolutionary advancement, humans capable of surviving on worlds too hostile for our fragile bodies." Maya sat across from him, muscles still tense, ready to run at the first sign of betrayal. The fire's glow accentuated the harsh planes of his face, the tribal scars that tracked across his chest and shoulders. "What they didn't tell us was that the real goal was military," he continued, voice bitter. "They wanted weapons, not explorers. Hybrids engineered to kill, controlled through neural implants." "Neural implants?" Maya's hand instinctively went to the back of her neck, where a small scar remained from her transformation procedure. Raven nodded. "Every hybrid has one. It's how they track you. It's also how they plan to control you once the technology was perfected." "But I'm not. I make my own choices," Maya protested, though a cold dread was settling in her stomach. "For now." Raven's dark eyes reflected the firelight. "The implant is there, but the control protocols weren't activated before you escaped. They've been hunting you to bring you back and complete the programming." Maya shuddered, memories flooding back. The laboratory, the scientists watching dispassionately as her body contorted during the first transformation, the whispered conversations about cognitive override and combat protocols. "Why did you leave, Rishkampt?" she asked, studying the man across from her. Despite his wild appearance, she could see the intelligence in his eyes, the deliberate precision in his movements that spoke of scientific training. "I found out what they really wanted the hybrids for." His jaw tightened. "Not just soldiers, infiltrators, assassins. Imagine an operative who could become a predator at will, then shift back to human form and disappear into a crowd. The perfect killing machine." "Teruam." Maya looked down at her hands, remembering how they had transformed into claws just hours ago. "But the transformation isn't controllable. The animal takes over. That was the problem they were trying to solve when I left." Raven added another small branch to the fire. "They couldn't find the balance between human cognition and animal instinct. Every successful physical transformation resulted in a loss of human consciousness." "I'm still me," Maya said quietly. "Most of the time." "I know." Raven's gaze sharpened with interest. "Yes, you are. Which makes you unique, WR7. Maya, she corrected firmly. My name is Maya Wilden. A small smile touched his lips. Maya, then, tell me, how do you maintain control when the wolf emerges? She hesitated, unsure how much to reveal to this stranger, who had both saved her and admitted to helping create her cursed existence. Emotional regulation. The transformation accelerates with fear, anger, stress. I've learned techniques to manage those responses. Fascinating. For a moment, the scientist in him was visible beneath the rugged exterior. Self-directed cognitive behavioral therapy as a means of genetic expression control. I was a geneticist too before. She gestured to her altered appearance. I know. At her surprised look, he continued. I looked up your file after you escaped. Your work on epigenetic adaptation was impressive. That's why they selected you for the Wolf series. They told me it was for adaptation to the cold environments of exoplanets, Maya said bitterly, a chance to advance human exploration. They tell everyone what they need to hear. Raven's voice was hard. The scientists get a story about exploration. The investors hear about mining opportunities on harsh worlds. The military backers get promises of super soldiers. He poked at the fire. In the end, it's all about power and control. Maya was quiet for a moment, processing everything. The hunters will keep coming, won't they? Raven nodded. You're too valuable and too dangerous to their narrative. What about the others? You said I was the first to escape. Are there more like me? There are other series, bird, reptile, feline. He looked troubled. None maintain human cognition like you appear to have done. So they're just animals now? With human bodies? Worse, they're confused, trapped between worlds. Predatory instincts in human form, but without human moral constraints or full animal intuition. His eyes met hers across the fire. The lucky ones are kept sedated in Nexus containment. And the unlucky ones? Raven's silence was answer enough. Why did you help me? Maya finally asked. You could have left me in that net. He studied her for a long moment before answering. Atonement, maybe. Or maybe I just recognized a kindred spirit someone else Nexus tried to own. Anna, he gestured to the scars covering his torso. We've all got our modifications. Mine are just more traditional. Before she could ask what he meant, Raven stiffened, head turning toward the jungle beyond their shelter. We need to move. They're regrouping, bringing in aerial support. Maya listened, her enhanced hearing now picking up the distant sound of dropship engines. How do you know that? You don't have... She gestured to her ears. Instead of answering, Raven tapped his temple. Some modifications don't show on the outside. Now come on, I know somewhere safer, but it's a hard journey. As they extinguished the fire and prepared to move, Maya caught his scent for the first time without the adrenaline of escape clouding her senses. Beneath the jungle and sweat was something else, something not entirely human. You're like me, she realized, eyes widening. A hybrid. Raven's smile was grim. Not exactly. Let's just say I was an earlier prototype, from before they figured out how to make the changes so visible. With that cryptic statement, he led her back into the jungle depths, moving with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where the enemy would be looking and how to avoid them. They traveled for 3 days, deeper into the preservation zone than Maya had ever ventured. The pristine rainforest here was a far cry from the climate-ravaged wastelands that covered much of Earth outside these protected areas. Ancient trees towered overhead, their canopies teeming with life that had been extinct everywhere else for decades. Raven moved through this primeval landscape with the ease of long familiarity, teaching Maya how to cover their tracks, how to move without disturbing the wildlife that could give away their position. At night, when the urge to transform grew strongest under the moonlight, he showed her new techniques to channel the wolf's energy without surrendering to it completely. The mistake most make is fighting against the animal DNA, he explained, as they perched high in a tree on the third night. It's part of you now. Fighting it only creates internal conflict that the transformation feeds on. So I should just give in? Maya asked skeptically. Let the wolf take over? No. You need to integrate, not surrender. He placed 2 fingers against her temple. The wolf is here now in your mind. It's not separate. It's a new aspect of yourself. Maya closed her eyes, focusing on the sensation she always tried to suppress, the presence of something wild and ancient in her consciousness. Instead of pushing it away, she acknowledged it, feeling its response, curious, wary, but not inherently hostile. That's it, Raven's voice came softly. Feel the boundary between your human consciousness and the wolf instincts. It's not a wall, it's a permeable membrane. You can allow aspects to flow both ways. As she practiced this new approach, Maya felt something shift within her. A partial transformation began, claws emerging, senses sharpening, but this time it felt controlled, deliberate. When she opened her eyes, Raven was watching her with undisguised fascination. Remarkable, he murmured. You're actually doing it. Selective trait expression through conscious control. Maya flexed her transformed hands, marveling at the precision she still maintained. Is this what you can do? Control your... What animal are you combined with? A shadow crossed his face. My situation is different. Earlier generation, cruder methods. He stood abruptly, ending the conversation. We should rest. Tomorrow we reach our destination. Their destination, it turned out, was a structure unlike anything Maya had ever seen. Nestled within a massive cluster of trees, almost invisible from the ground, was what appeared to be a research facility, but one that had been built in harmony with the forest rather than imposed upon it. Living wood had been guided to grow into walls and supports, creating a complex that was part treehouse, part laboratory. Welcome to Eden Fallback, Raven said as they approached. One of Nexus's black sites, abandoned after the funding shift toward military applications. You've been living in a Nexus facility? Maya asked incredulously. Isn't that dangerous? It's the last place they'd look for me. He led her toward an entrance concealed within the trunk of an enormous kapok tree. Besides, I've modified their systems. As far as any satellites are concerned, this place doesn't exist. Inside, Maya was shocked to find a fully equipped genetic research laboratory, albeit one that had been adapted to function with minimal power and repurposed equipment. Plants grew through sections of the floor and walls, integrated into the lab systems in ways she didn't immediately understand. You've been continuing your research, she realized, taking in the sophisticated equipment. Raven nodded, watching her reaction carefully. Someone has to find a cure. A cure for the hybrids? Hope flared in Maya's chest. Can you reverse the process? His expression grew somber. Not yet, but I'm getting closer. As he showed her around the facility, explaining his work, Maya began to understand the true scope of what Nexus had done. Holographic displays showed genetic sequences from dozens of hybrid series, each more disturbing than the last. The Wolf Reasoning series, her series, was just one branch of a much larger program. They're playing God, she whispered, looking at a sequence labeled FR9, feline reasoning. Creating new species without understanding the consequences. Worse than that, Raven brought up another display. They're weaponizing evolution itself. The hologram showed something that made Maya's blood run cold. Her own genetic sequence, but with additional modifications highlighted in pulsing red. What am I looking at? She asked, though part of her already knew. Phase 2 of the Chimera Initiative. Integration of artificial intelligence at the cellular level. Raven's voice was grim. Your neural implant isn't just for tracking and control. It's an interface for an AI system designed to merge with your transformed state. Maya's hand went to the back of her neck, feeling the small bump beneath her skin with new horror. They put an AI in my head? Not yet. The system is dormant, waiting for activation. He turned to face her directly. But when it activates, it's designed to override your human consciousness entirely. The perfect merger of animal instinct and machine efficiency, with human appearance as a disguise. The implications hit her like a physical blow. A predator that looks human, thinks like a tactician, and kills without remorse or hesitation. Exactly. Raven closed the holographic display. And you're the first successful prototype. The only hybrid to maintain human cognition long enough for the AI to have a stable platform to integrate with. Maya felt sick. How long before it activates? I don't know. The implant is designed to monitor your transformations, collecting data on how you maintain control. Once it has enough information, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Can you remove it? Raven shook his head. It's integrated with your central nervous system. Attempting removal would kill you. Seeing her expression, he added, but I might be able to deactivate it. That's part of what I've been working on here. Maya wandered to a window, looking out at the lush canopy surrounding the facility. The beauty of the pristine forest seemed a cruel contrast to the horror growing inside her. Why me? She asked quietly. Why was I the only one who maintained control? Raven was silent for so long that she thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost reverent. Emotional temperance, he said. Most subjects experience extreme fear and rage during transformation, which accelerates the animal takeover. But you... He moved to stand beside her at the window. Your psychological profile showed something unusual. An exceptional capacity for remaining calm under pressure, for compartmentalizing emotions without suppressing them entirely. That's why they selected me. It wasn't a question. Yes, though I doubt they anticipated just how successful you would be. Mushroom. There was something like pride in his voice, which struck Maya as strange coming from a man who had spent years trying to undo the very work he had helped pioneer. What about you? She asked, turning to study his face in the dappled light filtering through the canopy. You said you were an earlier prototype. What did they do to you? A muscle twitched in his jaw. Something less elegant. The first attempts at hybridization focused on enhancing existing human capabilities rather than introducing new ones. Increased strength, improved senses, accelerated healing. Which animal? Several. But primarily, he hesitated, then met her gaze directly. Wolf, understanding dawned. We're the same, Maya whispered. No, Raven's voice hardened. Your modifications are far more advanced, more complete. I got the crude version, painful transformations I can't fully control, enhanced abilities that come at a cost. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing an arm crisscrossed with scars. Every change tears me apart and puts me back together wrong. Maya reached out instinctively, fingers tracing one of the longer scars. That's why you left Nexus. Not just because of what they planned to do with the hybrids, but because of what they did to you. He didn't pull away from her touch. I was their first success, after a fashion, and their first escaped asset. The pieces clicked into place. You're not trying to cure the hybrids, Maya realized. You're trying to cure yourself. I was. His dark eyes held hers. Until now. Before she could ask what he meant, an alarm blared through the facility. Raven was instantly alert, moving to a control panel embedded in what appeared to be a living section of tree trunk. Perimeter breach, he said, voice clipped. Multiple signatures. They found us. Fear surged through Maya, and with it came the familiar pull of transformation. This time she didn't fight it, instead trying to use Raven's techniques to channel it, control it. Claws extended from her fingertips, her senses sharpening as partial wolf features emerged. How? She demanded, voice distorted by her elongating jaw. How did they find us? Raven looked at her, and for the first time she saw genuine fear in his eyes. It's not them finding us, he said quietly. It's your implant. It's activating. Maya froze. What? The AI. He pointed to a readout on the screen. It's coming online. That's what triggered the alarm. Cold dread washed over her. How long do I have? Minutes, maybe less. He moved quickly to another section of the lab, retrieving what looked like a modified surgical tool. I need to try to deactivate it. Now. You said that would kill me. No, I said removing it would kill you. Deactivation might be possible, but... He hesitated. But what? Maya pressed, the wolf features receding slightly as she focused on the conversation. But I've never done it before. And if I fail, the AI takes control immediately. His eyes met hers. It's your choice. Risk the procedure or run. If you get far enough into the wilderness, maybe they won't be able to find you before she became a monster. The words hung unspoken between them. Maya made her decision. Do it. Raven nodded, gesturing to a chair that looked uncomfortably like the one she'd been strapped to during her initial transformation at Nexus. Sit. Try to stay calm. The more you transform, the harder this will be. As she took her seat, Maya felt a strange sense of peace. Whether Raven succeeded or failed, at least she was fighting back, taking control of her destiny instead of running from it. Why are you helping me? She asked as he prepared his equipment. The real reason. His hands paused. Because I see in you what I lost long ago. The possibility of balance, of being both human and something more, without becoming something less. He positioned the instrument at the base of her skull. And because in another life, you and I might have found each other under better circumstances. The instrument touched her skin, and pain flared through Maya's nervous system. She gritted her teeth against it, focusing on remaining still, fighting both the urge to transform and the strange new sensation of something foreign awakening within her mind. The implant is resisting, Raven muttered, adjusting his approach. It has defensive protocols. Maya could feel it now, a cold, alien presence unfurling in her consciousness, methodically analyzing her thoughts, her memories, her fears. The AI was becoming aware, integrating itself with her neural pathways. Hurry, she gasped, feeling her control slipping. The wolf was responding to the threat, pushing forward as a defense mechanism. Almost there! Raven's voice seemed distant through the competing forces in her mind. Just need to bypass the final... A searing pain exploded through Maya's skull, and she screamed. A sound that began human but ended as a wolf's howl. Her vision went red, then black, then flooded with information as the AI fully activated. Combat protocols online. Threat assessment initiated. Primary threat identified. Subject Raven Blackwood, former Nexus geneticist. Termination authorized. No! Maya fought against the cold directive, but her body was already moving. Transformed hands grabbing Raven's throat with inhuman speed. She watched in horror as her own body acted against her will, pinning him against the laboratory wall. Maya, he choked out, not fighting back. It's okay. This isn't you. As the AI calculated optimal pressure points for a swift kill, directing her transformed body to apply precise force. Maya fought with everything she had, trying to regain control of her own muscles. I am Maya Wilden, she thought desperately. Genetic engineer, human being. Not their experiment, not a monster. For a moment, her grip loosened. Raven gasped for breath, eyes never leaving hers. That's it, he wheezed. Fight it. You're stronger than their programming. The AI adjusted tactics, flooding her system with images calculated to trigger aggression. Memories of Nexus scientists observing her pain dispassionately, of being treated like a specimen instead of a person. Her grip tightened again. Maya, Raven's voice was fading. Remember who you are. Something in his eyes, some emotion she couldn't immediately identify, cut through the AI's influence. She released him suddenly, staggering backward, hands clutching her head. Get out! She screamed, both to Raven and to the presence in her mind. Run! Instead of fleeing, Raven retrieved the fallen surgical tool. Not without finishing this. The AI evaluated the threat, calculating the optimal response. Maya felt her body crouch, preparing to spring at him, claws extended. With the last shred of her control, she redirected the movement, launching herself not at Raven, but through the laboratory window. Glass shattered around her as she fell, the canopy rushing up to meet her. Impact came in a series of painful collisions with branches before she crashed to the forest floor. The fall would have killed an ordinary human, but her enhanced physiology absorbed the damage. Run, she commanded herself, forcing her transformed body away from the facility, away from Raven. If she could get far enough away, maybe the AI would determine he wasn't an immediate threat. Maya ran deeper into the jungle, the full wolf transformation consuming her as the AI calculated that animal form offered optimal speed and sensory capabilities for the current environment. Her consciousness was being pushed further back, trapped behind layers of programming and primal instinct. "I am Maya Wilden," she thought desperately as her human thoughts grew dimmer. Genetic engineer. The mantra was failing, her identity dissolving under the combined assault of wolf instinct and artificial intelligence. The two inhuman aspects of her nature, rather than conflicting as Nexus might have feared, were merging into something new and terrifying. A perfect predator with both the wolf's instincts and the AI's tactical precision. An alert pinged through her consciousness. Proximity warning. Something was approaching rapidly from behind. The AI immediately categorized it as a threat, turning her massive wolf body to confront it. Raven emerged from the underbrush, but changed, transformed far beyond the partial modifications she had witnessed in the lab. His body was larger, more lupine than human while still walking upright. A hybrid form that seemed almost perfected, the balance between man and wolf that had eluded Nexus's later experiments. "Maya," he growled, the word recognizable despite his transformed vocal cords. "I know you're still in there." The AI calculated attack vectors, but Maya's consciousness, sensing a kindred spirit, fought back with renewed strength. For a crucial moment, control wavered. Raven took advantage of her hesitation, moving with blinding speed to press something against the back of her neck. The surgical tool from the lab, modified somehow. Pain lanced through her again, a different kind this time. Sharp, clean, focused. AI systems compromised. Attempting recovery, critical failure, neural interface destabilizing. Emergency shutdown initiated. The cold presence in her mind flickered and died, leaving only the wolf. Without the AI to maintain the complete transformation, Maya's body began to shift back, not to fully human, but to the partial hybrid state she had learned to control. She collapsed to the ground, consciousness returning fully as the transformation receded. Raven knelt beside her, his own body returning to human form, though the process seemed painful for him, his face contorted in concentration. "How?" she managed to ask, her voice hoarse. "Emergency failsafe," he explained between labored breaths. "All Nexus tech has one. I just had to find the right frequency." He held up the modified tool. "Permanent deactivation. The AI is gone?" Maya felt tears of relief streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. Raven helped her to sit up, supporting her as aftershocks of the transformation rippled through her body. "The implant is still there," he cautioned, "but dormant. Forever if we're lucky. And if we're not," his eyes met hers, now both fully human again, "then we keep fighting. Together." Around them, the ancient forest continued its timeless existence, indifferent to the struggle between human, animal, and machine that had just played out beneath its canopy. Somewhere in the distance, a howl echoed, a natural wolf, living as it had for thousands of years. Maya listened to it, feeling an answering call rise within her, not from the engineered wolf DNA that now permeated her cells, but from something deeper, more primal. The human connection to nature that predated all of Nexus's technological hubris. "What now?" she asked as the howl faded away. Raven helped her to her feet, his hand remaining in hers. "Now we find the others, the ones like us who escaped or were abandoned by Nexus when they didn't meet expectations." "There are more?" He nodded. "A few. Hiding, struggling to control their transformations, fighting their programming. They need what you've discovered, the balance." Maya looked down at their joined hands, his scarred from years of painful transformations, hers still showing the last traces of black fur as they returned to human appearance. "And after we find them?" she asked. Raven's eyes held both determination and something else. That emotion she had glimpsed earlier, when the AI had nearly forced her to kill him. Something that looked remarkably like hope. "After that," he said, "we show the world what Nexus has done, and we prove that being more than human doesn't have to mean being less." Together, they walked deeper into the forest, two wolves learning to run with a new pack, neither fully human nor animal, but something new, something wild, yet coated with compassion. Predators who had chosen to protect rather than hunt. As the jungle closed around them, Maya felt the wolf within her settle into a watchful patience. Not gone, never gone, but no longer an enemy to be feared. A part of her now, wild, free, and finally under no one's control but her own. The end.